want Kasi blood.
He was back. The hunt began. Min hindai kulon kuma, minba uma uding, ubriu umrad, kawai kakhtain kidang ikren. As they say in the Khasi language, which means, in the ancient golden age, when man and beast, the stone and tree spoke the same language. It was that time when gods were said to dwell in certain areas in the region of Chera in the state of Meghalaya. The foremost god among them had a daughter who possessed a special power, a power by which she could assume any form she wanted. And she often assumed the form of a woman and mingled with mankind without anyone suspecting her at all. Many sought her in marriage, but her father never agreed. And this really angered her, and she began to rebel. By way of retaliation, she began to attract strange and undesirable lovers. Days went by, and then one day she discovered she was pregnant. Fearing the wrath of her father, she fled home immediately and reached the caves. When it was time, she delivered her child, a son who proved to be a monster, having appearance of a snake and characteristics of a vampire.
Snow, blood, snow, blood. I want human blood.
This monster they called U-Thlen. Now U-Thlen, unlike his mother, could not assume any form that he wanted, but he could change in size. But you see, mother's love is unconditional. And so she began to lure the many travelers who passed by that side, and they became victims of U-Thlen's greed. Slowly, the captives were induced by promises of riches, and they began to bring the feed for U-Thlen. This went on. Man-hunting continued. It only became grievous and intolerable. People sought divinations and even offered sacrifices to gods. Finally, they found out that the one who could help them was Sudno, a fearless being who haunted the forests.
All right, I shall help you, but you need to bring to me fat meat that I shall feed U-Thlen. Do you understand?
He said, and went forth towards the caves where U-Thlen lived. As U-Thlen was mostly slothful, Sudno bore a large hole on the roof, on the rock that was roofing the cave where U-Thlen lived, as stealthily as possible. The next day, as the Khasis brought the fat meat, Sudno assumed the voice of a U-Thlen worshipper and then went closer to the cave and called out,
My uncle, I have got my tribute. Please open your mouth and allow me to feed you.
And the moment U-Thlen heard this, he expanded to great size, opened his mouth wide, and into which the fat meat was thrust into through that hole on the roof. This went on for days. The routine got set. Of course, men hunting ceased. But Pseudo knew this cannot go on forever, because one day for sure U-Thlen would seek human blood again. And so he realized it was time to take help from the giant Ramha. So he immediately went to Ramha and got a giant pair of tongs and a giant piece of iron made by him. This giant piece of iron was heated until it was red hot. When it was ready, Sudno assumed the voice of a U-Thlen worshipper and moved closer to the cave and called out,
My uncle, I have got my tribute. Please open your mouth and allow me to feed you.
And the moment U-Thlen heard this, as usual, he expanded to great size and opened his mouth wide. But this time, it was Ramha who thrust the red-hot iron down his throat through that hole. What followed shook the earth. U-Thlen twisted and tossed, writhing in agony, and tremors were felt everywhere as he dashed against the walls and the roof of the cave. And then there was pin-drop silence. Sudno climbed up the cave and looked down through the hole. Yes, he saw it. U-Thlen was lying dead. The people rejoiced and danced, shouting cries of joy. As part of their celebration, they decided to cut and eat the body of U-Thlen. So the carcass was dragged out of the cave and cut into two portions. One portion was given to the people from the plains, while the other was given to the Khasis from the hills. The people from the plains had their portion and went back happily, while the Khasis found it a little difficult to consume. So a big fire was kindled, into which all the fragments of meat were thrown into until every fragment was burned to ashes. Relieved, they all went back home. That night, in one of the houses in the Khasi hills, there was an old woman who was waiting for her son to return. And after some time, when her son returned,
Oh, mother! Oh, mother! I have lost everything. I've lost all my money. You were right. I should have come for the feast. I did a mistake. I did a mistake.
he lamented. Oh, so it has happened as I had feared. But don't you worry, my son, don't you worry. That is why I have kept it for you. Yes, you wait right here. I will get it. You wait here, said the old woman, and went inside to bring a box. And she brought it as she slowly opened it. Because out came a tiny wriggling creature in place of a piece of meat that she had hid into. And then she heard a voice.
Oh, don't get scared. No. I mean no harm. I promise to bring you good fortune if you take care of me. Oh yes, will you take care of me, please?
Now that was indeed a great temptation that they could not resist. So the mother and the son allowed that creature to live on, but keeping it shh. a secret. Days went by, and of course, the mother and son became rich. They were having a lot of money and living very happily. Time flew. He too grew, and they lived comfortably and in peace until